Oh, guys, good, you hear? I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why, did you finally listen to it?
Da-da-da-da, 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 the Groomer Next Dioor production. You're listening to BYOTP Radio. Coming up next, the Groomer Next Dioor. The Groomer Next Dioor Podcast.
Dun 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 dun. Show the Dukes of Hazzard, Catherine Bach on Times Square. Catherine.
Hi, Paul. You wouldn't believe this place. Times Square is really jumping. The crowd started gathering a little after 9, and by the time that ball drops, it's going to be wall-to-wall people. I used to get so excited at home just watching on my television set back in South Dakota. But to actually be here with this tremendous crowd, hearing all of these sounds, feeling the electricity around me, it is really something. I'm just so happy to be here. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. By the way, did you know that I was the first lady to do the countdown in Times Square? How about that, ladies?
Hello, pups and kids, and welcome to a 200th episode of the Groomer Next Dioor Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Green, and our 200th episode guest will be none other than the great Susan Thixton. I had 3 people in mind that I was thinking, gosh, they are really my 3 go-tos. Number 1 was number 1, number 2 was number 2, and number 3 was number 3. No, I'm not going to reveal who they were, but it was a real decision that I could not come up with, and it wasn't until the very last second that I said, you know what, this is who it will be, because of the contribution that she has left, not only in the pet industry, but with veterinarians all across the country and in Canada, across the country for pet advocates like myself, and for everybody who really is intuitive to their actual pets. Well, this week's Fact of the Week. A dog's heart beats between 70 and 120 times a minute, compared to a human, which it beats 70 to 80 times per minute. Man, no wonder dogs are so loving. They're just pumping out so much love at once. Well, by that sound, Susan is about to enter the podcast studio, and I really, really appreciate that she's taken the time to be on. So with that said, welcome for our 200th episode, Susan Thixton.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
This week, I haven't even told her yet, but this week is the 200th episode of the Groomer Next Dioor, and I honestly could not think of somebody who has inspired me more and has meant more to pet food than this lady. She is the pioneer. She is the catalyst of the best. We are so fortunate to have Susan Thixton returning to the podcast for our 200th episode. Thank you for being on.
Well, congratulations, 200. That's quite a milestone.
It is a milestone, and I didn't want to let you, I wanted to, let you know right as we were recording this that that's what it is. I really thought about who could be the 200th episode, and there's so many choices, but like I told you before we started, you have really inspired me in so many ways, and I really appreciate it.
Well, congratulations to you. That's quite a big deal to have 200 episodes. That's majorly significant. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And I'm honored to be here.
Well, you know what? The honor is really all mine and everybody who gets to listen, because anytime I see you on anything, I stop what I'm doing. I saw you did a kind of a live chat with Cole back when he was at Super Zoo, and I stopped what I was doing just to listen to you. Anytime you post something, I want to read it. Anything that's going on, I want to be part of it to be able to see what's going on, what's going in Susan's mind, because it's just absolute bliss, and I just love being able to talk to you. Well,
thank you.
Oh, thank you. The first thing, and we're not even going to dance around anything. Let's go with recycled garbage being used by pet food companies. This is really strange.
Yeah. It's hard for people to believe. If you stopped a pet owner on the street and, held up a bag of pet food and asked him, and it very well could be a bag of pet food with a picture of a roasted chicken on the label. Would you believe that this product contains recycled garbage?
Mm-hmm.
And of course they wouldn't believe you. They'd think this was, a hidden camera comedy routine. But it's true. Many pet food ingredients are in essence recycled garbage. Some of them, like the dried bakery goods, which I'm very surprised that ever made it into a pet food. Biljack, I do believe, is the pet food that has that ingredient in it. It's literally expired bread, cake, any type of things like that. It might be moldy. It's for certain stale. It for certain has very little nutritional value to a dog or a cat. But that is an allowable ingredient. It's defined by AFCO, approved by the FDA, and it's more commonly fed to cattle. But it can also be a pet food ingredient. Yeah.
That is so weird. Yeah, I saw that the other day with Biljack, and I thought to myself, wait a second, big what? And, stale bread tends to get moldy. And, here we go down to the whole grains and the issue with all of these different things, the wheats and the grains being contaminated. Here we go with another contaminated product that's being put in, or ingredient, being put into the product, so that we're just poisoning more and more. Unsuspecting pet parents are going through this. And I don't understand why, besides cost.
And paying good money for recycling garbage. Our pets being, like a living landfill.
That shocks me. It's Billy, Billy Hookman from Answers Pet, he touched on a subject on how pet food all started, where pretty much, I guess you could say, the crude protein needed places to put the parts that we couldn't eat as humans, and they couldn't just put it in the ground in a waste field, so that's why pet food was started. Now, that's about as accurate as I can get. Is that correct?
Yeah. If you think that before commercial pet food, what did cats and dogs eat? They either hunted for themselves, or their families gave them the leftovers from the dinner table. Mm-hmm. So it was based on a leftover system from even before commercial pet food came in. Commercial pet food just took that leftover system and upscaled it big time. Many of the meat ingredients in pet food are leftovers. Some leftovers are okay. Not every consumer, as example, eats chicken livers or beef liver. So those are leftovers. But other leftovers, such as from a USDA slaughter facility, much of the material can be condemned. My cousin used to be a U.S. government meat inspector, and there would be injection sites in the flesh of a slaughtered animal where the drug did not disperse throughout the tissue. It was gathered in one tissue, so that was cut away. Wow. That's a leftover. That's welcome in pet food. Cancerous tissues, livers that are, contaminated with liver flukes, and all these horrible, nasty things. A really horrible read is the USDA document on all the different diseases that livestock animals get and what goes into condemned. Oh my gosh, you talk about keep you awake at night. Is this document and all of that material is with open arms welcomed into pet food.
So crazy.
And not disclosed to the consumer.
And, that's one of the reasons why I'm so amazed by you is that you're the one person, and I use the word one, who really has stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. We're not disclosing it. We're putting that it's all these great little pretty products are with these great bags, and it's really just garbage in a bag, harmful garbage in a bag. That's the sad part. And I just kind of, every time I just throw my hands in there and go, oh my God, I can't believe this. I can't believe it. I mean, the bakery was my hands in the air going, I thought I've read it all.
And me speaking out against these things is why AFCO threw me off of committees. Because they want everybody to toe the party line.
Oh, yeah.
And I have never toed the party line. I'm there representing consumers, and consumers deserve to know what they're buying. To this day, they don't know. They have no clue what they're buying. And it's intentional, keeping all the information away from consumers. In every other commodity, consumable, a food product, in every other food product, if you want to look up what the legal requirements for chicken are, or what the legal requirements for carrots are, if you want to look up definitions, if you want to look up what all these different things mean, any consumer can do that. They might not be real easy to find on a FDA website or a USDA website, but they're there. They're public information. You can look it up. That is not true in pet food.
No, it's not true.
You can't look it up. No consumer, if a consumer goes, well, this crazy woman at Truth About Pet Food said that chicken can be condemned chicken, and I want to confirm that she's telling me the truth. Well, you have to spend $125 for the AFCO book to confirm that information. It is intentionally withheld from public view. And to me, that's a violation of freedom of information rights of consumers. We're looking into battling that legally, but we're not there yet. We're still gathering our forces, let's say.
Right. I was going to wait on the AFCO, but you know what? It is a good topic to go into because there's so many things to go into. Now, I wanted to go backwards just a little bit because the last time we talked, you had just come back from D.C., and we remember the whole situation with the changing of pet food to pet feed, which would be an appropriate matter. And we all know that you were given a BS line that, oh yes, we're going to look into that, and then they recanted and said they never did. How is that going, and what has happened since the last time we spoke with you with AFCO?
Well, that was FDA that agreed to the calling all products that don't meet food law, calling them feed, all products that do meet food law, calling them food, dog food, cat food, or dog feed, cat feed. Then FDA at the August meeting literally threw us under the bus. And at the FDA meeting was Dr. Karen Becker, an attorney with us, and on the call also was Nikki Mall and her husband. Nikki is the pet owner whose dog died from Avengers and who did the testing on her animal to find out that it was phenobarbital. So there were 5 witnesses of FDA agreeing to this, We get to the ASCO meeting, and FDA threw us under the bus, directly lied to us, said they did not say this, did not do what they promised. So we do have, when you want FDA to do something or stop doing something, the procedure is to file a citizen petition. And a citizen petition is not like where you gather signatures. A citizen petition is a document that where you cite what you're wanting to change or what you want them to implement, and then give all the foundation for this, so forth. There's a procedure that you have to follow. Every I has to be dotted properly, every T crossed properly for them to accept it. So with the illegal ingredients that FDA allows into pet food, I already had a citizen petition in for that. And with our meeting with FDA, they suggested for us to make this feed and food labeling issue an addendum, submit it as an addendum to the original citizen petition. And we did that. That was done before the AFCO meeting, and that was done at FDA's request. But so it's still under consideration by FDA. Whether they'll ever do it, I have no idea. But in the last time I filed a citizen petition with the FDA, it took them 4 years to respond.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're 1 year into the original. It was October of 2016 that I filed the original citizen petition. So we're better than 1 year in. We got 3 years to go, and maybe we'll know. Maybe FDA will tell us something.
I love the way you put things. I do. I kid you not. Now, of course, I'm going to actually give my opinion, which I try not to do it too often on the podcast. I try to keep everything as neutral as possible, but I've come out public about this already. I remember a few weeks back when you had posted your removal from AFCO. I read everything that you had posted up, and I saw Kristen Green's name, of course, knowing that she had been on the podcast. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know that person. Well, not know, thankfully, but spoken with her. I didn't actually have any contact with, I think it's Matt Cook, if I'm not mistaken, is his first name is Matt.
Stan.
That's how important it was to me. Unfortunately, I just, but I have talked to him. He actually said, "Oh, we could, talk about different things with AFCO, but you apparently have really ran your course with it. I don't think there's really anything to cover," which gave me the sense that I really kind of stuck it to him, which I hope I did. But of course, he said we can't discuss anything about Susan Thixton and the removal. But when I read the full transcript, I'll be honest, I felt that you were treated very inappropriately. I felt that, and again, this is me, I definitely will want to hear what you think and what, everything transpired with you, but I felt that they said in a very abrupt way, I don't think there's any other way to say it, but you should know your place, the adults are talking. It felt very sexist, and I felt filthy. I was destroyed when I read it, because I thought to myself, this is a load of crap. You know that Susan is right there for every pet parent. You gave her the nice little fancy title, and for some reason I felt that they expected you to submit to them. And as you said, towing the line, the company line. I, to this day, am outraged over it. I feel so bad. And, we had conversations after I saw it, and I sent you an email, and I apologize for their bad actions, even though I have nothing to do with AFCO, thank God. But I felt bad because I think that you got a really bad deal. And I wanted to be able to say that to you, not only privately, but I wanted it to be public, to let them know, because we all know that they'll listen, or someone will listen, and they should know that your army has grown exponentially, and definitely with me, I support everything you do, and I'm very much against what they did, and I think that they need to be out there and say, you know what, we made a mistake, or, you know, even better, shut it down. That's my long little soapbox rant. But I'd like to know what your take is on what happened and what you can talk about.
Well, I'm totally open about it. AFCO did not want me as Susan of truthaboutpetfood.com. They refused to. I was originally allowed as an advisor as Susan of truthaboutpetfood.com. And when I wrote about a meeting, Robert Waltz, the president at the time, he's with Indiana Department of Agriculture, as soon as I wrote about the meeting, he pulled me aside and he was just so angry. He was so angry he was shaking. And he's in my face telling me, you're no longer advisor. We have removed you. And this was years ago. And I went, why? Well, because you wrote on your website. And I'm thinking, excuse me? You know, consumers don't deserve to know what's going on here. A couple years after that, a former president who was off the board of directors, you're on the board of directors, you work your way up through the ropes, then you become president, then you serve one more year after your one-year presidency term, and on the board, and then you're done. So this guy was a former president. He had already done his time on the board, and we were walking down the hall out of a meeting, and he went, I said, you know, they're still not letting me be an advisor. And he said, okay, I can finally tell you now. We can't have a blogger as an advisor. And they considered Susan Thixton of truthaboutpetfood.com a blogger. So I went, okay, fair enough. I started the association and had to jump through 14 different hoops to prove to them that the association is a registered organization, does have a separate bank account, all of their hoops I jumped through, which I know with 100% certainty they do not require of other advisors. So I finally get back on. And then they do this. They were trying to censor what Susan Thixton of truthaboutpetfood.com writes. They have no authority to censor Susan of Truth About Pet Food because the advisor is Susan of Association for Truth in Pet Food. They have absolutely no authority, but since they are a private corporation, they can do whatever they want to do. Now, then we get into a little bit of a twist. Well, they're writing law, okay? So in essence, they are an extension of government. Through their Memorandum of Understanding agreement with FDA, they write the definitions of pet food ingredients, which makes them an extension of a federal agency. When you are an extension of a federal agency, you are supposed to abide by the same public regulations, public requirements that a government agency would, meaning all their definitions should not be copyright protected and solely owned by AFCO, which means they should not charge $550 for someone to attend their meeting. So these are things we are looking into right now. It's absurd. A veterinarian, a big veterinarian that wanted to go to the AFCO meeting just called me yesterday and went, "Oh my gosh, I was coming, but I had no idea it cost $550 just to go." I went, "Yeah, I know. It's expensive. And that's not including your airfare and your hotel and so forth." So, and all the ASCO people, the State Department of Ag people, it's our tax dollars paying for them to go. They stay at very expensive hotels. These events are held at very expensive hotels, but they're not paying for it. We are. Consumers are. Our tax dollars are paying for them to be there. And then they're there pretending sort of that they're an extension of government, but not, because we're a private corporation. It's all very muddy, and we're looking into it, myself and a lawyer friend, and we're not done yet. So all this stuff should not be kept away from consumers. That's what it boils down to. I don't care what they do to me. Who they really hurt was consumers when they did that. Well, that's who they really hurt.
They did hurt the consumer, but reality is that you are the driving force. You are the voice for every consumer out there, for any dry kibble consumer. Let's put it that way. You have been probably the biggest inspiration for wall feeding as well, because we've all, including myself, I was a dry kibble feeder. I thought that grain-free at one point in time was good food. I didn't know any better. And I learned, oh gosh, this is not good. And then, of course, became a raw feeder and advocate against dry kibble. But you look at even the next AFCO meeting is going to be in, and I liked how it said Garden Grove, which most likely will be Anaheim, California. And here's a nice little place. I mean, you can use the word Garden Grove, which is a lot smaller scale. It's still in Orange County, California, but you know it's going to be right by Disneyland. It's going to be in a nice hotel, and it's going to be almost kind of a little getaway for these people. And I looked at it and I laughed. I went, wow, you guys are so corrupt. And they're great at it. And Department of Ag, I mean, here we go with that. That's the question I really want to ask you is, are they all members of the department? I know Kristen is part of a university in Kentucky. I think it's Kentucky. Kristen
is university, she's Department of Agriculture, so Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and Kentucky Department of Agriculture is located within the campus of the University of Kentucky. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So is all AFCO members part of the Department of Agriculture?
Yes, either Department of Agriculture or FDA. Those are the members. Industry attends. Anyone in industry can attend, or anyone, any consumer can attend. So, in industry sends a lot of people. There's probably 400 to 500, I would guess, at any given meeting, attendees. And the greatest, I would say, and I don't know if that head count includes regulatory. I don't know. I would assume it does. You know, some states will send 2 people. Some states will just send 1 person. Sometimes a state will send 3 people, 4 people. Depends on the budget. But you know, it is mostly attended by industry. When I first started going to AFCO meetings, it was interesting to me. I'll never forget the very first meeting I was at, and there was an industry trade association that their representative, who is very good. This woman is excellent. She's very smart, but she's representing, to me, the enemy. So, you know, but I have to give her credit. She's a very smart person, and she is very good at her job. She would finish the sentences of AFCO people. They would start to say something, and then they were like thinking, what is the rest of this? She would finish their sentence. And they go, oh, yeah, that's right. And I was blown away. She really controlled everything. When I wrote about this quite a bit, she has backed down some in her authority at AFCO, but AFCO is more of an industry trade association than it is regulatory. They're there to please industry. And see, I was this, thorn in their side going, excuse me, you can't do this. They are right now deciding on increasing the vitamin A levels in the vitamin A maximum in dog food. And this was proposed by a trade association, a European trade association, who is mainly Science Diet and Mars. So they asked once, they got denied, they've asked again. So they form, when there's something like this to be decided, they form what AFCO terms a working group, and it's a smaller number of individuals. So they put industry representatives on this working group, and I'm not a scientist, but Dr. Kathy Alanovi, who represents small manufacturers in a trade association at AFCO, and Dr. Jean Hovey, who does represent consumers at AFCO. Jean wasn't there, but she was on the phone. Kathy was there. Both of them volunteered and wanted to be on this working group. They were denied. And I argued with Kristen, and Kristen is who made this decision. I went, you cannot have a working group with just industry representatives and FDA and you without having an opposing opinion. You can't do it. They did it anyway. Both Jean and Dr. Kathy are holistic veterinarians. They would have offered a different perspective to it. They didn't want their perspective. They would not allow them to participate. AFCO does what AFCO wants, and for the most part, what AFCO wants is what industry wants.
Right.
Industry wants vitamin A levels to be increased. They're probably going to get it.
What's the benefits of vitamin A being increased? Is there any benefits?
We don't know the method to their madness, actually. It has been suggested that it's maybe an increase in liver, where they can put more liver in a pet food, but we don't know exactly. Had someone been on that working group, we maybe would have learned a little bit more, but they would not let anyone else be on their working group.
So toss an
It will
organ.
be talked about at this upcoming meeting in January, I suspect, so we might learn more then.
So
But that's how they do things.
we toss a little bit more organ in?
Yeah, more liver, more organ meat, yeah.
Which
That's
is cheap.
cheaper than meat.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow. That, and look, I'm not opposed to adding any kind of organ meat, but it really isn't. It's a 5% to the 5 to 10% to your raw feeding. You're just throwing it in there to just say, hey, look, we don't have to worry about that crude chicken or crude pork or crude beef. That's all it is.
they just meet the numbers. That's all it is. It's not truly looking out for the pet's best interest. It is just meeting numbers. It's all a numbers game, which is just so sad when you think about it. The nutritional requirements for cat food and dog food, AFCO has established nutritional requirements. All of them have, of course, a minimum. Very few of them have a established maximum. So it might be 5 milligram per kilogram minimum, but there's no maximum. So it could be 25 milligram per kilogram. It could be some astronomical number, which to me, they pitch pet foods as that complete and balanced. And that gives consumers a perspective that this is very precise nutrition. It's not. It's not precise at all. Mm-hmm. Actually, nothing in food is really precise. Soils are different. If it's meat, what the animal ate, everything. There's so many variables, but yet pet food is pitched to the consumer on the pretense that, it's complete and balanced. So this is very precise. No, it's open-ended in the majority of these nutrients. There is a supplement called copper sulfate in pet food that was never, ever originally tested for safety on cats and dogs. Now, this ingredient is being watched quite a bit. A veterinarian at Cornell University has linked that ingredient to copper storage disease in dogs. Another veterinarian whose own dog died from copper storage disease, he firmly believes was caused by the pet food that he trusted, that had copper sulfate in it. He tried to go to AFCO and said, you guys do something about this. AFCO refused. He went to FDA. FDA refused. They wouldn't listen to him. And this was a vet. So they do what they want. Not what consumers want. They do what they want, which is what industry wants.
And see, that's the problem, because FDA, PFI, which is Pet Food Institute, or AFCO, they're all the same. It's this three-group tier of, I don't even know what to call it, besides almost a mafia of its own group. I mean, it is terrible. And
it's collusion.
Yeah.
That's the word. The FDA and each state Department of Agriculture, and I have every bit of evidence anyone needs to back this statement up. The FDA and each state Department of Agriculture openly allows pet food to make billions of dollars in profit selling adulterated, illegal products. Not one AFCO ingredient definition, which all pet foods are held to, not one of them are written to adhere to federal law. Not one.
It's terrible.
And I've written the Inspector General over FDA. I've written Florida Department of Agriculture, Attorney, Inspector General, Attorney Generals. I can't even tell you how many letters I've written going, please, somebody, help, stop this. This is wrong. But nobody gets involved. Nobody yet. We're hoping, but we're hoping someone will come forward. But at this point, we have no one of authority to stand up for us.
Well, no, we do. We have you.
Well, but they don't listen to me. They just kick me off the committees.
But that doesn't that never silenced Susan Thixton. Let's be realistic.
Oh, no, I'm still going to the meeting. They're not running me off.
Right.
It ain't going to happen. So I sat in the audience before. I can sit in the audience again. I don't care. I'll still be there. I'll still speak up just as much as I ever did. It doesn't matter. But it's going to take a lawsuit.
Yeah.
To make a change, it's going to take a lawsuit. And we are gathering administrative law, which is what this falls under, is a different monster. And that's what all of this falls under. And I'm reading as much as I can on administrative law. But we'll get there. I don't think it'll be all that long either. I think and this will be consumers it will be significant in the media. We'll get lots of attention from this because we'll be suing to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing anyway.
Well, yeah.
You know, it's insane that we have to sue them to get them to do their jobs that our tax dollars are paying their salary for.
You know,
So,
I always had faith in the Department of Agriculture. Now, I didn't live in a state that I really knew of the Department of Agriculture until I came to the Midwest. I had faith in them. I actually believed, oh my gosh, you know, here's a government-ran operation. I mean, talk about, you know, believing in fairy tales. But now it's like, since, you know, going through all this process and everything else, I realized they're just as corrupt and as dirty as the rest of them. I mean, it's just the saddest thing ever.
what state are you in, Chris?
I'm in Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I have Stan Cook. Stan Cook is actually in my state, which is what led to our conversation. I go, okay, well, you're in my state, so you and I really need to talk. And he was quick to jump in. Oh, yeah, sure, okay. It's like, I don't know why you were so quick to jump, but okay. I haven't heard from him since before Thanksgiving, which, you know, I'll have
Well, that's because you probably mentioned my name. Oh, if you know her, then we're not talking.
No, he knew who I was. He knew exactly who I was, which kind of scared me. I was like, whoa, I'm not.
There was a Mars pet food plant in Joplin, Missouri, and I don't know how close you are to that, but in Joplin, Missouri.
150 miles?
Okay. And this plant had a 6-foot hole in the roof right over the mixer for years.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember the Peanut Corporation of America recall where zillions of pounds of peanuts were recalled because they had a tiny hole in the roof, and when it rained, bird feces and so forth would leak through that roof and contaminate the peanuts.
Right.
Salmonella. It was disgusting. Thousands of products with their peanuts in it were recalled. So this pet food plant, it's not a tiny hole. It's a 6-foot hole. I've seen a picture of it. It's a 6-foot hole. I asked, first time I met Stan was asking him about this pet food plant. And I said, Stan, you know, why were no pet foods recalled? I don't understand. And, well, everything we saw looked in favor of the company. And I said, well, that just doesn't make sense to me, but okay, we'll have to agree to disagree. But what about the hole in the roof, Stan? And his answer, I kid you not, was it wasn't raining the day we inspected.
Oh, my God.
I'm not kidding. That was his answer. Yes.
This is when I want to run my head into a wall.
That's what you get. There you go. There's your Department of Ag.
You know, I'll even be open and say this. I wanted to work for the Department of Agriculture. And the reason why? Because I thought if I work for an organization that actually is out there monitoring and protecting animals, that's where I want to be. Yeah, I figured that out. That was, again, believing in fairy tales. That was a few years ago.
It should be, you know, it should be. And I don't know if some of them are there doing the right thing. I used to believe that some of them are. I'm not so sure I believe that anymore. I hope it. I do hope that is true, but I'm not so sure I believe it. With that pet food plant in Missouri, I did Freedom of Information Act requests with FDA, with Missouri Department of Agriculture, with OSHA in that area, and with the National Institute of Health and Safety, all regarding that pet food plant. Those employees at that pet food plant reached out to everybody. They did everything that they could trying to get help. They felt like they were being poisoned.
Right.
and they were all getting sick, and they reached out to every government authority, and not one helped them. Not one. After the fact, one of the people from OSHA did tell me, in fact, I still have his voicemail message on my phone. He called me at 8:30 at night and left me a message saying, I started looking back into that case, and OSHA failed those people. Yep. And OSHA needs to be held accountable. To this day, Missouri Department of Agriculture, FDA, OSHA, and National Institute of Safety and Health, no one has been held accountable. And there are people that remain very sick that worked at that pet food plant. So I'd like to believe that there are good people that work in regulatory, but I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. And I don't know what happens to them. Maybe they go in with the right intentions, and maybe the agency itself prevents them from doing what law requires them to do. Maybe they get bought out. I have no idea. It's all speculation. All I know is that a lot of law is being ignored. I don't know. I have no explanation as to how it continues to go on. But I do know it does.
How much did AFCO bring in just 2017? I think I read you posted something about their income. Did I get this right? It was over 300,000.
Yeah, that was in 2015. Their tax returns for 2015, and it was $1.2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, they're no little organization. They made like $350,000 plus some change from these meetings.
Mm-hmm. That's what I read.
It should be public.
Yes.
It should be free to the public. And they made another $350,000 and some change on selling the regulations and the ingredient definitions, which again should be public information. So there's $700,000 in their revenue. They really, acting as an arm of the government, they really shouldn't be earning.
Yikes. And
a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And here you got the FDA that's sitting right next to them going, we see nothing either. And in each one of their ears is the Pet Food Institute, which only have big dry kibble companies on their board. It's how do you regulate when you got the people that you're supposed to be regulating making the rules? It doesn't make sense.
And how do you regulate your friends? That was always a concern with me at AFCO. You see consistently, every AFCO meeting, you see regulatory people, AFCO members, leaving the building, going out to enjoy whatever city that we're in with industry.
Right.
They go out and party together. I just find that wrong.
Yeah.
They're regulatory. They should hold themselves to a different level. You can go with yourselves. Regulatory people can all go out and do what they want and enjoy their time in whatever city. Mm-hmm. I'm all for that, but not going with industry.
No. Well, it was funny when I had Mary Yun from Pet Food Institute on. One of the big clips that she said was, do not read the ingredients on pet food bags. Now, she's come back out since then. She's contacted Kimberly Gauthier and said that she wanted to be able to, or at least Pet Food Institute have said that they wanted to clarify that. Kimberly's like, you know what? If you want to do it, you do it through him. You said it to him. You do it on his podcast. They have yet to contact me, and I really have nothing left to say to them. But that's the real, honest truth. If you're a dry kibble feeder, don't read the ingredients, because that's not what they want you to do. They just want you to buy the product blindly. Buy the product.
Yes. Unfortunately, all consumers, it doesn't matter what type of food it is, we're all buying it blindly.
Yeah.
Because until consumers have access to the ingredient definitions and know what chicken means, what beef means, all those things, we're buying it blindly. We're trusting. Yeah.
We're all, I mean, I believe in the FDA like I believe in any kind of fairy tale character. But,
once upon a time.
Right. And that's kind of, I almost have that moment. I drive my wife nuts when I walked in, or even close to dry kibble aisle. I want to go down there and I want to talk to people. And my wife literally wants to turn the other way and run away. And I want to have that conversation with people. Go, okay, do you realize what this is? Do you realize what that is? My daughter, who is 9, she is starting to develop the same kind of ambition of wanting to talk to people about how bad dry kibble is and how raw feeding is the only way to go. Which, hey, 9 years old, nice. So I'm proud of that. But it's to that point where you just kind of look at it and go, it's a multi-billion-dollar company, industry of lies. And
yeah,
I can go into a big box store, and we don't have co-ops, and we don't of all the weird things. Being that you're in kind of the flyover states, you would think there'd be a lot of farms where you can, nice, good farms where you can buy your meat from, and we don't have that. So we're relying on big box stores for our meats. And as a person who doesn't eat meat because I can't stand the commercial factories and how the treatment of animals are, I have a real struggle. But what I do realize is that the FDA is corrupt, but the USDA, there's still a little bit of hope that they're good. So I can trust them to feed, to provide the right meats for me, which means that they have the right product for my dog to eat and my cats to eat. Is there a difference, though, between the USDA and the FDA, or is it just all the same thing? Is it just all pretty much lies?
Well, the USDA, FDA is the governing agency over pet food.
Right.
But the USDA does have a pet food certification program. And their pet food certification program freely gives its public record definition of ingredients, what meat is, what chicken is, all these things. They're all public, okay? And interestingly enough, for a pet food to be certified by USDA, every ingredient, including byproducts, has to be human edible. It has to be USDA inspected and approved. So the USDA's pet food is their definitions, their rules, every regulation regarding this USDA certified pet food is in direct alignment right with federal law. So USDA is playing by the books. On the other hand, on the FDA website, there are compliance policies that say pet food consisting of diseased animals and animals which have died otherwise than by slaughter is acceptable into animal food. FDA very directly goes opposite of law. Opposite. USDA in alignment with law, FDA opposite of law. So there's the answer to your question. I'm sure there are parts of USDA, I don't know their regulations as much as I do FDA's because they're not so deeply involved in pet food. But, so I'm sure there's some things I would disagree with how USDA does it. But with pet food,
100%.
It's unfortunate that USDA isn't in charge of pet food because we'd have a lot safer pet food world out there than we have now.
So sad. I mean, I was told one time that there's nothing at a grocery store or at a Walmart, at a Target, that is worthwhile feeding a dog. And I was like, no. there's a great meat aisle where humans go all the time.
Right.
That's where I go.
Yeah.
I look at the meat aisle now and I go, this is the pet food aisle. I'll even joke and go, hey, this is the pet food aisle, really loud. You know, my daughter finds it funny. My wife puts her hand on her face, goes, oh God, here we go again. Or I love to
He's doing it again.
She says that too. Oh, he's doing it again. I mean, I'll go Facebook Live and go, hey, I'm in the pet food aisle right now, and I'm in the meat aisle. This is where it really belongs. I find it funny, but it's true. And I would love to see the USDA take over. I really don't have a lot of faith anymore as well with FDA. There's no faith there. It was funny when I was doing the whole thing with the AFCO PFI, I asked you, hey, is there anybody that you can think of I should talk to in the FDA? And I loved your answer because I thought this was kind of cool. You're like, the fact that you were able to get AFCO and PFI to do it, I commend you, but there's no chance that FDA will. And I was so hopeful that I would actually be able to lock that down. Just because I was like, I want to make Susan proud. Got to make her proud. So, unfortunately, I did not get that chance, unfortunately. But
well, keep after him. No. Keep after him. Don't give up. You know, you never know. But
you know, I don't really want that kind of garbage to be allowed any kind of time to talk, because all it is lies that they're going to share. And they're going to put their fake agenda. Talk. Yeah.
I listened to your interview with Kristen, and it's double talk.
Yeah.
You know, they talk out of both sides of their mouth, and when you meet these people, they're very nice, and you think, oh wow, they couldn't be bad guys. They're nice people, and as human beings, they are nice human beings. But as regulatory authorities, they're not so nice because they're ignoring law. Kristen Green, Kentucky, and Stan Cook, Missouri. Now, both of these people, Stan's about to be president of AFCO,
right.
But he was, and I guess for this next year he won't be, but he was co-chair of the Pet Food Committee. I don't know if he'll remain as it for this next year while he's president, but both of their states have state law, Missouri and Kentucky, and there's 12 other states. Florida, my own state, is another one of them, have state law specific to animal feed. And pet food falls into the category of animal feed. When you look up the state's definition of animal feed, pet food is included in that definition. So these state laws specific to animal feed / pet food say that it would be adulterated if any ingredient is sourced from a non-slaughtered animal or an animal that has died otherwise than by slaughter. They don't enforce those laws. Now federal laws say the same thing, and federal law does override state law. But here's 14 states that is specific to animal food / pet food. And they even ignore those. And I asked states, and you get the dance around.
Yeah.
My own state, I had to get a congressman in Washington, D.C. to force Florida Department of Agriculture to agree to have a meeting with me. And in Florida, you can record without their knowledge a government official, any conversation meeting you're having with a government official. So I recorded it, and I kept pushing the guy from Florida. Well, I don't understand. This is state law specific to pet food. Why aren't you enforcing it? And all he would do is go, Susan, we're not going to do it. Well, but you're not hearing me. It's law.
Right.
You have no choice but to do it. Susan, we're not going to do it. I just want you to hear me. We're not going to do it. That's all he would say.
It's so sad. I mean, you see it all the time, and I stay away from being as vocal as I want to be about politics, whether it's left, right, up, down. And I just say it the same way. Doesn't matter who you're for and who you're against. They're all bad. Doesn't really matter. It's just a corrupt system, and whether it's all the way to the top, or these little ones like the FDA, or you have these little jerks with PFI or AFCO, they're all connected some way, somehow, and it's just the bathwater is dirty. Yeah, I just cannot understand it. You know,
well, they've let the problem get so massive and so out of hand that if the FDA suddenly tomorrow went, okay, you know, we can't do this anymore, we've got to enforce law, there would be no cattle feed, there would be no pig feed. Chickens can eat grain, so they would probably be okay, but at these big factory farms, there would be no livestock feed, because this same garbage, literally, it's in the AFCO book, it is a defined ingredient. Cow poop is fed to chickens. It's in the pelleted food. They recycle the cow poop, and chicken poop is fed to cows. They don't waste anything. Everything goes right back into feeding another animal. So to me, you are insulting Mother Nature by feeding these animals this on a day in, day out basis.
And it's crappy to do.
They're destroying the food chain. They're absolutely destroying the food chain.
That is just wrong. I mean, you know, with pigs, you can give them the bakery waste. I mean, that'll be fine. I mean, we all know that pigs will eat anything. But when you're feeding crap to cows, and again, you're feeding crap
literally.
Yeah, right.
Literally.
You know, there are people in prison who are eating better than this crap, and yet, what are we doing? And then, of course, you know, these chickens are terribly slaughtered. A lot of them are in bad conditions. Same thing with the cows, and so, you know, I could go on and on and on. They're fed crap, except they are fed drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're fed all of this garbage and drugs and poor conditions, and then people go, really? You don't eat meat? How can I eat meat? I'll eat fish.
Yeah.
I'll eat free-range chicken because at least I have a general idea that it should be good. That's as close as I go to it.
Do you want to ruin your day on fish?
I already know it's not the greatest.
No. Do you know that it makes a trip to China?
I hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Most all fish, I don't care whether it's caught in Alaskan waters or where, most all fish is minimally processed on the fishing vessel, put in big containers, frozen, put in big containers, shipped to China, thawed out, filleted, further processed, refrozen, and then shipped to whatever country they're going to. Mm. It saves, I forget I wrote, there's a post on this, and I was horrified. And a pet food manufacturer is who told me about this. She was trying to source fish, she was trying to come up with a fish recipe for her line of pet foods, and she was horrified that none of the fish didn't go to China. And she couldn't find fish that didn't make a trip to China. And it's really not disclosed. Sometimes you'll see it in groceries that it'll say, like processed in China, or it'll make some kind of little disclosure statement. But they save like maybe 30 cents a pound. I don't recall the exact amount. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider millions of pounds of fish, that's a lot of money.
Right.
And that's even including freight going back and forth to China.
That's so hard.
And they're doing the same thing now. That has been approved for poultry, for U.S. poultry, to be slaughtered here, not processed, not, butchered, basically, frozen, shipped to China, thawed out, processed, refrozen, shipped back.
Well,
and that is a USDA approval.
we're all going to be.
Sorry, I ruined your day.
No. I you know, I'm about ready just to go back to eating McDonald's every day. It's just, I mean, hey, most of the dogs and cats are. No, I wouldn't do that.
Most dogs and cats would be better off eating McDonald's than the food they're eating.
No.
At least McDonald's is human grade.
Yes. Well, to some degree.
No, it is. It has to meet a whole lot of regulations that pet food doesn't.
That's true. That is true. It was funny. Dr. Goder and I were talking about McDonald's and the McRib, and that was just kind of comical. It's like it's processed garbage. But you know, I've made the analogy going back to the 90s and how we were so hell-bent on kids nowadays are playing video games all the time. They're not out there playing. We're eating fast food 5 nights out of the week, 6 nights, 7 nights, whatever. TV dinners were just flying off the shelves. And we need to stop all the chemicals in our food. We need to get out and exercise. We need to do all this stuff. And now, 20 years later, the same problem is there, but with our pets. Predominantly our dogs. Are we taking our dogs out for a run? Is our dogs getting the exercise they need? No. Are they being fed the proper food? No. Is there any difference to lifestyle of a child, teenager, whatever you want to go, in the 90s to dogs to today? And the answer is no. Same thing. Everything's the same. It shocks me. Now,
it's horrible. It really is.
Now, I sent you an email. I hope it got to you. I'm not sure if I sent it to the wrong person the first time. Totally my bad. It was late at night. I made this reference to the way a kid's cereal box looks to how a lot of bags of cat food look, or even dog food, and how they almost mirror each other with the cartoony look, the pretty shapes and colors all over the box. And I was talking to Dr. Kocher about it. We were going back and forth while we're recording the podcast, and then afterwards, we're messaging each other back and forth. And I sent her a picture, and I sent you the picture. Gosh, I hope I sent it to you, or I sent it to someone. I did. Yes. Thank goodness. Yes. She's like, you need to send this to Susan. So she's like, the first person, she goes, you need to send that to Susan. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm fine with being, compared to the difference. No, it's not really the same. That's okay if I'm wrong, but did you see the same thing I see in it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
It is marketed the same kind of way. Yeah, absolutely.
It's scary, isn't it?
I compare the pet food industry to the tobacco industry.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Because, and Dr. Karen Becker has talked on this too, in that it used to be that even human doctors said, high blood pressure, go smoke a cigarette. Mm-hmm. You got this disease, no problem, go smoke a cigarette, you'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And that's the pet food industry. Mm-hmm. So they're so much like tobacco.
Yes.
It's, I don't know, it's crazy.
I've made the same analogy so many times, and I've lined the two up. I mean, there's kind of a multi-level to this. I've even made the reference. I'm an 80s baby, so I grew up more or less late 80s into the 90s, but I remember going to restaurants, and you'd be walking to the bathroom, you'd go right in between the bathroom, there were the men's and women's like there are today, but in between there, for anybody who doesn't remember this, there used to be a little machine there, and that machine sold cigarettes. Nobody operated it. You just put the coins in, you push whatever kind you want, and it comes down. No regulation at all. Now that seems really strange now that anybody could have just walked up. I mean, you could have been a kid, put the money in, who's going to stop you? That's what this is. It's these really pretty boxes. I mean, I compared Trix and I think it was Kibbles and Bits or it was some kind of cat one. I don't know. But the ton is hanging out kind of in a yummy type look on the Trix rabbit and on the cat food. The eyes are all bulging out and happy to see it, both characters. It is uncanny how close they are together. And you can pick that up from
both
any
cartoon characters are high on food dyes.
Yes. and so is and that's even what brings me to that whole thing where I looked at it and went, no wonder people are buying it. Especially the next gen. We grew up on these kid cereals. So we're going to look at them and go, well, it looks just like what I ate when I was a kid. So of course my dog and cat's going to like it. It's almost a subliminal message.
It's probably subliminal, yes. It probably very much is a subconscious thing where it's a familiarity and an automatic trust. And more than likely, that has been studied thoroughly.
Yeah. I mean, and it was one of those little moments and just, we were just talking randomly and doing what we're doing now. And it just came out just like this. And it was just back and forth of it. And it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder. And again, being in the Midwest, a lot of people here are prone to do what their parents did, and their parents were prone to do what their parents did, and it becomes a generation thing. Well, if my grandfather fed old Roy, so my father fed old Roy, and I feed old Roy. Does that make it right? Of course not. But I guess you can make the same argument, well, my father was an alcoholic, so I'm automatically going to be an alcoholic. No, that's not exactly accurate, but some people believe that. Don't be a case in point. Yeah. It's just the way it is. I'm just lost. And it's on a weekly basis. Sometimes, I'll do multiple episodes in a week, and we have these conversations, and then sometimes they mirror the same kind of topic, and I never have been able to figure out and put it into words what's going to change, except for, as you said, a lawsuit.
Yeah, well, we are making, and we is all of us. It's consumers, it's the advocates, it's all of us. Okay, we are making a difference. We are growing in numbers. People are starting to learn, and I had a consumer one time tell me, they were arguing with me in an email. I did a post, and they did not believe what I was sharing with them, even though I had all the evidence there. They could look it up, and they just didn't accept it. And after back and forth, I finally went, you're entitled to believe what you want to believe. It's okay. And then a couple weeks after that, she wrote me back and she said, I could only accept what you were telling me one thing at a time. And it was like getting to the center of an onion. I could only remove one layer and then sit there like that for a while and accept that. Then I could remove another layer and so forth. So we are removing layers.
Right.
Okay, we are. We're starting, we are reaching more and more people. So we are making a difference. For it to get to the numbers that we need, when that will happen, what it will require for that to happen, it's probably the lawsuit. But we're growing regardless. We truly are. I believe that firmly.
Now, the next thing that, of course, with the AFCO thing, it's sadly a never-ending story until the unfortunate happens. But then you get weird, bizarre, and almost to the point of head-scratching changes that they want to make in Los Angeles with the shelter dogs going vegan. And it makes you ask the question, and whose bright idea was this? And how is this even going to be nutritionally responsible? Let's go with that. And for the first time, when I was talking to Dr. Kocher, I actually found myself advocating for dry kibble, which made me feel very dirty, and I had to take 3 showers. I still felt dirty afterwards. But I actually was advocating that, well, at least dry kibble is a better source than taking the dogs and forcing them to go vegan. What?
I suspect that, I mean, if you've read in great detail about the slaughter process of animals, it is a horrible thing.
Yes.
Okay? There's no way around it. There's no niceness to it. It's horrible. And if you're an animal lover, I get that is just a horrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, animals are not slaughtered specifically for pet food. They're slaughtered for human consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And animals do require, in the wild, I can't watch like any of those nature shows because of a lion killing, a gazelle or whatever. I can't handle it. I have not witnessed an animal be slaughtered in a commercial facility, but I grew up with and spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather hunted, and I witnessed a lot with that. But to my grandparents, that was food.
Mm-hmm.
If my grandfather didn't hunt, if he didn't fish, they didn't eat. So, it is part of nature. Animals do kill other animals to live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it is part of the process. By them trying to make it that 30,000 animals a year die strictly to feed the shelter dogs in LA, that is false.
Right.
That is absolutely false. Those animals are slaughtered for human consumption, and in that pet food go the leftovers. So that's wrong. I get a vegan, why humans choose to be vegan. I totally get it, totally support them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you cannot put your own personal lifestyle choice on a dog or a cat. If someone wants to do that for their own individual pet, I can't say I agree with it, but that's your pet and that's your right.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that to shelter animals while not knowing, not having the answers to questions of what it will do to those animals long term, what it will do when they get adopted and they go into a home and switch back to a meat-based pet food. They don't have the answers to those questions because the data is not out there. The science is not out there. So I suspect this whole thing is, my opinion is that it is money oriented. It is a vegan dog food company that is pushing this because then they can use in their marketing, we feed shelter dogs, and they can push their product, use that marketing to push their product. That's just a guess. I have no idea if that's the true thing, but just one person's opinion.
It's funny, because I never really thought of it that way. I actually, in my mindset, I was thinking, how many shelter dogs are euthanized because of overcrowding in a 30-day period? And this is a nice way to just distract people from that and go, oh, look, we're vegan. We're doing everything we can to, prevent and
while in the back
appease.
room.
Right. And that's how I read it. Read into it, not read your stuff, but that's how I read into it.
The Los Angeles LAAS, Los Angeles Animal Services, they do euthanize quite heavily,
mm-hmm.
and they also they have to pay a taxpayer expense, a rendering facility to come and pick up those euthanized
mm-hmm.
dogs and cats, and those animals get rendered back into who knows what. They might become the pet food ingredients, meat and bone meal. They might become animal fat. They might go to fish feed. A lot of rendering facilities say that all the euthanized pets go to feed fish. But then they're becoming part of what we eat again. So, I have no idea. I hope it does not pass. I think it would be a really wrong move, but it looks to be very, very political, that there have been some influence spread around.
Right.
In one way, shape, or form.
Coming from Los Angeles, growing up there, being raised there, only having 7 years Midwest, but the rest of my life being out there, I can understand the crock pot lifestyle where you're just all in this soup together kind of thing, percolating. And a lot of opinions are formed, and that's great. And it gives social currency where you're able to have that conversation with different people. And you can, I guess in a sense, you can appreciate someone's beliefs to some degree. You may not believe in what they believe in, but you can appreciate it. This is one of those moments that's like, no, you are wrong. There is nothing about a dog and nothing about a cat that says that they can be vegan. Your whole nutritional decisions can be altered because we have the supplements. We have the different things we can do. Yes, you can supplement for the dogs, and you're going to have to outsource a ton of stuff from other countries just to make everything work. They're not going to do that with this particular vegan meal, and it's going to cost them way more than it would if they were on regular, again, I'm just going to say it, if they're on dry kibble where it's a lot better. That made me feel sick.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I don't know. We'll see. December 12th, I believe, is when they're going to take the vote. So we'll see what happens. I hope a lot of consumers voice their opinion to the commission. I did. I sent my emails to them all. So I do hope consumers do that. And if you're in support of it, say you're in support of it. That's fine. And if you're against it, write. Send them an email and tell them you're against it. So they need for a lot of consumers to be heard.
Only one of them have responded back to me, which I thought was really, really strange. Everybody else, they just bypassed it. I thought that was really weird.
Yeah, I've got no response back.
Oh, gosh, I got one? I got one more than the famous Susan Thixton. That is amazing. No, seriously, that's actually kind of like, oh man, she must not have known who she was talking to. In our last moments, gosh, I hate when that comes up, but I wanted to actually go and have you talk about your 2018 list while we have the time.
Well, each year, what I do is solely supported by consumers. And truly, I have two products. One is Petsumer Report, which is it's more than 5,000 different pet foods reviewed, and it's a database, and you can log in anytime. And then the list. And if I didn't have both of them, and I couldn't survive off of just one, if I didn't have both of them, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be going to AFCO meetings. I wouldn't be arguing with FDA. None of this. It unfortunately takes money to run a website, and you have to have all these secure measures because industry hates you and they try to hack your website on a regular basis. So all of this stuff costs money. This is my sole job. I take no money from any pet food company. I'm solely supported by consumers. So each year, the main question I always got from consumers was, well, tell me what you feed. What's your favorite pet food? Tell me what you feed. And I can never make, and I still don't, any recommendation. I can't endorse. But I can say a list of pet foods that I personally would trust to feed my own pets. And I've been doing this since 2013. And this year, I upped it quite a bit in that I required all the companies, I send them a list of questions, then they respond back with their answers, and are ingredients human grade, as example. And if they said yes, and are animals humanely raised, and if they said yes, then I said, okay, now I need you to verify all of this. If you're humanely raised, I want you to send me the verification. I want proof. And if they're human grade ingredients, I want you to verify it. Send me proof. And it was amazing, Chris. Some of the companies, oh my gosh, what they sent me was, I knew I liked these companies to begin with. I loved the answers just to the questions. And then when they sent me all this verification, and I'm looking through mounds of these digital documents, it was mind-boggling. So this year, with this document, I'm proudest of any list that I've ever had because of that verification. It really, I don't know, I'm just very proud of this document, and it's 20 pet foods. There's not as many cat food options as there are dog food. Most of the foods are available in the U.S. There's only one that's strictly Canada. I wish this company was in the U.S. They're a delivery service, and they make cooked and raw, all human grade, amazing little company. These are not ones that you'll find in Walmart. They're food. They're not feed. They're food. They're actually food. And all of that information was verified, that they are food. So it was pretty cool. And it's something I'm very proud of. And I wouldn't be here without the list. The list is what keeps Truth About Pet Food going.
And you know what? I've said it already before, and said it the first time, said it many times. I cannot tell you, Susan, how proud of you I am, and just how much I look up to you and strive to literally form the same model as what you have. You are here's the claim, and I will support it with the data. And I have grown into that in this podcast because of you, by really just being inspired by you. And that's why I'm just so glad to be able to talk to you again on the podcast. And I'm very privileged and very honored to be able to send you emails and hear back from you. I cannot tell you how much that means to me, because you are the top of the list, and somebody that I look up to and think, gosh, I continue to want to keep myself moving to be more like you, and to strive to be that kind of person. And you are amazing.
Well, thank you. You're making my head swell. Stop.
Well, I mean, it's not only me. I mean, I know.
Very much.
No, thank you. I mean, and I know who, also, I mean, you've got some great friends out there that are also very massive, and they look up to you, and I look up to them going, man, they're amazing veterinarians, and I can see how they look to you, and they look to your guidance as well. I've seen how Dr. Rodney, he'll look at you, and I've seen how Dr. Becker looks at you, and I even see how Dr. Kocher looks at you and looks towards you for different things. And we all do. And we all want to be the best that we can and the voice that we can be for this industry. But we look to you because you are the top of the list of what we're all trying to measure to be as good as. And it's just an honor. It's an honor and privilege, and that's why I said my 200th episode had to be with the person who really has taught me more about what's going on in the industry than anybody. It's you. By reading your information, by studying what you're doing. And again, as I said at the end of the last episode, I could spend the next 10 to 20 years trying to learn what you know, and I'm still going to come up short. And that's just the truth. No. It really is. Now, I know that you will be speaking at the Healthy Dog Expo in April, and that's something that I keep talking about that because of Dr. Koger and how, you know, I probably wouldn't even have ran across Dr. Koger without you. It's just this entire wave of luxury that has come from knowing you. So I appreciate it, and I can't
She's awesome. I really like Lori.
I do too. I still can't, even now when we go back and forth in messages, I still cannot call her Lori. I still can't do it. I'm sure
I've known her longer. You'll get there. I've known her longer.
There are people in this industry that I look towards, and I think you guys are amazing and knowledgeable. And you know, some people are absolutely impossible to talk to, and I understand they're busy. You know, and you know, one day Dr. Rodney and Dr. Becker, they'll be on, hopefully. They're just so busy all the time. It's impossible to just spend an hour with them just to kind of, you know, pick at their brains and have these conversations. But, you know, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You really have lent your voice and woke up so many people. And I really appreciate it. I really do.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Is there anything that we didn't cover? I mean, of course, you know, anytime you want to be on, you're free to be here any day, anytime. I will make myself available to you. But is there anything you wanted to cover before we have to say goodbye?
I think we covered a lot. We did good.
We typically do. We're pretty good about that, and it's quite nice. Well, thank you for being on. I do appreciate it.
And congrats again on 200. That is really, really awesome. That's a huge milestone.
I'm kind of proud of it. I am.
Oh, you should be. That's awesome.
Well, this is Chris Green saying have a pet-tastic week for our 200th episode. Thank you, Susan Thixton, for being on. And as always, have a pet-tastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.